Once upon a time, in a valley tucked between two towering silver mountains, there lived a very, very shy dragon. His name was Dipple. Now, you might think all dragons are the same big, scaly, and very, very loud. And you'd mostly be right. While the other dragons in his valley spent their days boasting about who could breathe the hottest fire or who could lift the biggest boulders with their mighty claws, Dipple kept a secret. It was a secret he held so close to his heart that he never dared to share it with anyone. You see, Dipple loved to paint rainbows. Every morning, just as the first rays of sun kissed the mountain peaks, he would slip quietly out of his dark, cozy cave. Tucked carefully under his wing was a tiny paint satchel, a gift he had made for himself. He would tiptoe with surprising grace for a dragon, past the noisy dragon crowd. They were usually gathered in the main clearing, practicing their fire roars and comparing the sharpness of their talons. Dipple would hurry past them, his heart thumping a nervous rhythm, and make his way to his favorite spot, a quiet, secluded cliff that overlooked the entire valley. There, with the world waking up below him, Dipple would unpack his treasures. His brushes weren't ordinary brushes. They were made from the softest phoenix feathers he had found scattered in the high meadows, and his colors were just as magical. He mixed them himself from special ingredients like sunrise dew, crushed moonbeams, and the nectar of starlight flowers. He had a whole collection of tiny, shimmering pots. He'd dip his phoenix feather brush into a pot of blue that shimmered exactly like a fellow dragon's scales in the sunlight. He'd swirl in a red as warm and comforting as a gentle dragon's fire, and he'd add a yellow as bright and cheerful as the sound of summer laughter echoing through the hills. With each stroke, a brilliant arc of color would appear in the sky. He worked with intense focus, his little dragon tongue sticking out from the corner of his mouth as he concentrated. He blended the colors so perfectly that they seemed to melt into one another, creating a flawless ribbon of light. It was his happy place, his moment of peace before the world became too loud. And as soon as his masterpiece was complete, just as the last color found its place in the sky, he would quickly pack up his satchel and hide. He'd duck behind a large rock or slip back into the shadows of the forest, making sure no one could ever see him. He loved making the rainbows, but the thought of anyone knowing it was him filled him with a deep, trembling fear. But one day, something different happened. Dipple was working on his biggest, most spectacular rainbow yet. He had decided to add an extra band of glittering gold, a color he had just perfected using sunlight trapped in morning mist. He was so absorbed in his work, so lost in the joy of creation, that he didn't hear the soft footsteps approaching. A young girl named Mary, who lived in the village at the foot of the mountains, had wandered farther than usual while collecting wildflowers. She climbed up the grassy slope, chasing a particularly beautiful butterfly, and suddenly stopped, her eyes wide with amazement. There, right in front of her, was the most vibrant rainbow she had ever seen, and standing beside it, with a tiny brush in his claw, was a small green dragon. Wow! she breathed, her voice full of awe. You're the one who paints the sky." Dipple froze instantly. His brush dropped from his claw with a soft clatter. His wings began to tremble, and his green scales flushed a deep, embarrassed pink. He wanted to disappear, to shrink into a tiny pebble and roll away. He looked at the girl, his heart pounding against his ribs like a drum. You like it," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Mary's face broke into a huge grin. "Like it. I love it. Everyone does," she exclaimed. "Every morning, the whole village comes out to see your rainbows. We always wondered where they came from. We thought it was magic. But it's you. You're amazing." Dipple stared at her. No one had ever called him amazing before. They called him quiet, shy, or sometimes just didn't notice him at all. For the very first time in his life, Dipple felt something warm and light flutter inside his chest. It was a feeling braver than the hottest dragonfire and brighter than any color on his palette. It was pride. Mary's simple, honest words were like a key, unlocking a part of him that had been hidden away for so long. With Mary's encouragement, he felt a new kind of courage. That afternoon, she walked with him back to the dragon clearing. Dipple was still nervous, his satchel held tightly under his wing. But with Mary by his side, he felt he could face anything. He walked right into the middle of the other dragons, who stopped there roaring and boasting to stare at the little dragon and the human girl. Taking a deep breath, Dipple spoke. He told them his secret. He told them about his love for painting, about his phoenix feather brushes and his sunrise dew paints. He expected them to laugh. He expected them to call him silly or weak. But to his utter surprise, they didn't. They were silent for a moment, and then the biggest, fiercest dragon in the valley, a grump named Ignis, let out a loud cheer. Soon the whole clearing was filled with the sound of roaring cheers and clapping wings. They weren't making fun of him. They were celebrating him. Ignis even shuffled over and gruffly asked if he could help mix the violet paint sometime, as it was his favorite color. From that day on, Dipple was no longer the shy, hidden dragon. He painted his rainbows proudly, right there in the main clearing, for everyone to see. The other dragons would gather around to watch, offering him snacks of charred wood and shiny rocks. Some even tried to help, though their large claws were a bit clumsy. The valley was never the same again. It glowed with Dipple's beautiful colors every single day. And whenever new rainbows stretched across the sky, everyone, dragons and humans alike, knew they weren't just paintings. They were a beautiful reminder of Dipple's courage, stretched magnificently across the sky for all the world to admire. Thank you so much for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures. We'll see you next time.